So the why, the purpose of the presentation is to go through our employee profit sharing program. And in order to kind of get there, I'll go through about 2 minutes of history, and then we'll kind of get on with the program. And it comes from history in a couple of different ways. And the real why, though, behind it goes back to the beginning of the company and back to the mission statement. Our objective really is to transform people's lives, right? And that goes for the residents. We get that, you make a nicer place to live, living there is nicer, right? And the investors, their lives get transformed. They put in money, they get back more money at the end of the deal, right? And then that's great. And the community gets benefits out of what we do, because all of a sudden, when very often we buy the very worst building in the area, you stop the crime, you stop the traffic, you stop the other things that are going on, and you build a sense of community where people start to look out for each other, and the neighborhood gets better. Right. And we've seen that in properties as they develop. That's great. But what about the employees, right? This isn't, we hope, for any of you, just a job. Our objective when we looked at, Max and Peter and I kind of looked at each other across the table, was we want this to be people's last job. Not because we work them to death, or because they make them insane and they lock themselves up, but because, I've worked in other environments where it was like that, right? I was a contractor. I didn't work at Microsoft. I was working for a consulting firm, and I was there at Microsoft, and I was walking in with one of the software engineers that I was working with on the project, and we're walking by the front desk, and he's like, yeah, you see that woman over there? Like, yeah. Like, so she's worked here about 10 years. She's part-time. She's never made more than $15 an hour, and she's a millionaire. And I was like, excuse me? Like, at 20-something years old, I don't understand it. Let's back up and explain it as well, right? Every year she's worked here, she's got stock options. The value of the company has increased tremendously since she's been here. And so she's amassed a lot of wealth, especially for a person who works a normal job. She's amassed a lot of wealth through the appreciation of the company and that being shared with the people who actually create the value. A lot of companies have a very big disconnect between who creates the value and who gets the rewards at the end of the day. And the compensation scheme kind of works along the lines of what you've seen out of our compensation scheme so far, which is, how little can I pay people to get them to stay long enough to get what I need from them? And then after that, great, we're out. When you look at, we're never going to be a top of market cash compensator, because that race doesn't make sense. If that's how you want to attract the best talent, it's not going to work, because someone's always going to come along. I saw this with law firms. It was hilarious, right? Someone will come along, and if you're making X a year, someone will offer you 1.1 or 1.2 times X, and then people will go there. And if there's no differentiator among them from a culture perspective, and there's no differentiator really other than the check that you take home at the end of the week, why wouldn't you every year say, okay,
it's all about the money.
That's right. I'm an NBA player. I have a free contract now. I'm a free agent. I'm going to go look around. I'm going to pick the best team. I'm going to go play for that team for 1 year, and then I'm going to move on. Our objective is really to create a team of people who first of all, like I said, this is your last job because you want it to be, and that when you retire from this company, you're in a position that you don't have to worry about money ever again. It doesn't mean you're going to be wealthy next week, right? It takes time. But the objective is to truly share the profits of the company, the value that you are building with you. All right, that said, so how does this work? Well, we're not a public company, so it's not an employee stock option program. Like, my wife works for a company that's public, and every year you get so many shares, just like the Microsoft person I was talking about. We're not that. We're very different. The Urban Communities LLC itself is not where the value is. The value is actually out in the funds. So the way we work, we raise a fund, we go buy some properties, we rehabilitate those properties, we stabilize them, and then we'll be selling them into a REIT that we own and kind of keeping them captive. But effectively, we sell them. When we sell them, there's a big payday. That's actually what we're turning around and sharing with the employees. So how does the program work? So basically, in each of the funds, we're allocating 2.5% of the profits interest to the employees themselves. So in the case of Fund 1, last year's estimate was the award at 2.5% of the profits interest was $392,500, and that was spread among, I think, about 50 or 60 employees at that time. No, I think actually it was lower than that. It was around 40. So, and it works like a stock option program. So you're being awarded units now, that don't have current cash value. They're not voting rights in the company, right? But it's economic rights when this cash event happens, selling the property or transferring it into the REIT, that you get paid out at that time. And the awards are computed proportionally based on the salary of the recipient. What does that mean? So if that pool is worth $392,500, we take everybody who's an actor who qualifies at that time, put them in a spreadsheet with their salary, and that's the proportion that you get. So if your salary is 50% of the entire salary pool, you're going to get 50% of the award. If it's 2%, you're going to get 2% of the award. Now, there are a couple of restrictions here. You have to be an employee or contractor from the time of the award until the time of payout to be eligible for the payout. So if you, and the typical lead time between award and payout is 2 to 3 years, because we'll award these units for the first 2 years of each fund as it's going through the raise money, buy properties cycle. And then after that, then the payout is when there's a liquidity event, when those properties are sold or pushed into the so you need to be an employee or a contractor during that entire time, and you have to have been an employee. I think it's 60 days or 90 days at the time of the award. That's a little bit later. So, and we'll see in a second some estimates of what that looks like. We'll walk through one person. In the terms, so as you can imagine, like anything in the world that has lawyers involved, unfortunately, there are more terms and conditions. And what you get is an award letter that tells you you've received this many units in the fund and explains to you the basic terms. And then there's basically a contract behind that you sign that explains how the entire program works, which mostly just amplifies on these principles that we're talking about in this presentation. So we did an example. We said, okay, if we have an employee who makes 17, and this was in that last example, now there are more employees, so the payout numbers will be different. The valuation has also changed, so that number would go up. But employee A makes $17 an hour for an estimated annual income of $35,360. So what do they get? And this is 2020 through 2023. And this is assuming we have only 2 funds, which we currently have 4 that are actively raising and deploying capital. But this is just based on that, very limited subset, just to show you what this looks like. So in 2020 and 2021, they get awards from Fund 1 and Fund 2. No payout, no liquidation, no liquidity event. Then in 2022, Fund 1, in theory, sells off its properties into the REIT. And at that time, the employee receives a bonus payout, which is a cash bonus of $11,000. Then in 2022, when Fund number 2 does the same thing, they receive a cash bonus of $12,900. So you get this agreement that basically tells you in the future you're going to get a cash bonus. That cash bonus is going to be based on the number of units you have and the actual value of the payout to urban communities when urban communities gets its profit split from those deals. And in case, this is a person making $35,000 a year. Again, only 2 funds over 3 years. If you calculate this over a longer period of time, you see that money adds up. If you're making $35,000 a year, I doubt you'll ever see an $11,000 bonus working anywhere else, right? Never mind what turns into a long-term sort of payment stream as these funds play out. Now, this isn't a promise that every fund is going to do that every property is going to do that. This is what we're doing now. It can change year to year, but the objective and the principle in any replacement plan is going to be the same, which is to align you as employees with the interests to make you into partners in the company, so that when you're making a decision about if I give a B level effort here, I'll get a B level result. If B is a pretty decent grade in school, we're good to go here. Or if I finish this tomorrow, that's good enough. Versus if I finish this today and I put in an A level effort, I'm going to get a better result. Well, you're going to see the payout on that better result. Okay, so to kind of summarize the program, each employee, the initiation of the program, when we do the grants, which we will be doing, and we haven't scheduled it yet. The last one we did, I think, was in April. No, it was October. It was October. So that would mean we should look to do one in April. When that happens, each employee will receive, you'll get an award letter that explains to you what the grant is, what the terms are, what the terms of the program are. And you'll sign that little agreement and award letter, and you'll put it in a drawer, and it'll disappear, and you'll forget about it, right? That's okay, because we keep a copy. Then, now, it's important to understand the units that are awarded have no cash value at that time. They don't have voting rights in the company. They're basically worthless until Urban Communities gets a payout on that fund. When Urban Communities does receive the distribution from the fund, provided you're still here as an employee or as a contractor, right, then you will receive a bonus corresponding to your percentage of the award pool, to your chunk of the award pool. If you leave the employment of Urban Communities, then those units are surrendered and there are no cash values. So that's just like a stock option program with unvested units. That's it. That's the big exciting speech. Those are all the details. That's not all the details, but that gives you really the overview. What questions can I answer?